Hi, everybody. This is Rock Kaput, two Germans talking about rock and metal. I'm Oliver,
I'm Alex.
and today we have a guest from across the big pond from the USA. Welcome, Alex, Alexploitation. How are you doing?
Thank you. Appreciate being on the show and the sole American here. So I hope I can do our country justice with this ranking.
I guess you will. So today we are going to rank the catalog of yeah, some would say grunge band. I guess we will discuss if that term is really fitting. Stone Temple Pilots. And for this ranking, we thought of something new because we want to have a bit more dialogue than we usually have in these rankings. So instead of each one ranking the catalog, we will go through the discography from newest to oldest album, and each we will each give our thoughts and opinions, and then we're gonna rank. So yeah, we will have a bit more dialogue. We will see how this works out. So without further ado, Alex, would you do us the honors and start with the first album?
Sure. So I go back with STP to the beginning. I was a fan right out the gate from the first album. So this exercise was interesting because I really lost track with them over the years, and the new incarnation with Jeff Goot, I did not pay much attention to until now. So the eighth album of theirs, Perdida, came out in 2020. It's a largely acoustic affair and done with vintage instruments. And while that sounds interesting, I found it to be incredibly boring. It, it, I get they wanted to do something different, and that's fine. This different wasn't for me. It's very slow. It's very sleepy. Uh, Jeff is much less a Scott Weiland impersonator on this album than on the prior one. But just have no life, no character in this. I think it's interesting. I will say this. The Japanese edition of this CD included 3 bonus tracks of old STP material: Big Empty, Interstate Love Song, and Pretty Penny. That's how you do acoustic numbers. That would have worked much better if the rest of this album lived up to that material, but it doesn't for me. This is a very flat album. Not a fan, would not go back to it for another listen.
So it's your number 8, I guess.
100. I would actually put it at number 9 if I could, but yes, number 8, sure.
Okay, Alex, do you want to be next?
Okay, I guess I have a very different take on Perdida. So I was also a big fan of Stone Temple Pilots right from the start when they came out. I think I followed them until almost Shangri-La Dee. Then I kind of lost track, and I listened to the Jeff Gutt albums and also the later one with Scott just recently. And I think Perdida is really a gem. It is really from front to back. I love the record. It has such yes, I mean I agree. It doesn't really sound a lot like Stone Temple Pilots. It's a different approach, but it has a lot of depth. A lot of songs sound like they were written a long time ago. It has a, to me it has a timeless quality, kind of. And I really love Jeff as a singer. He's really good, and you shouldn't, especially on this album, I agree, you shouldn't call him a Scott impersonator, but he has a similar voice. I love the title track. Perdida is probably, yeah, it is my favorite track of the album. I mean, we never really got a sober version of Scott. I mean, I think he took cocaine, he drank alcohol until his death, I think. And I think it is kind of the closest we could have come to a kind of a peaceful album sung by a version of Scott, a newer version, a sober version of Scott. And yeah, he's come to peace with this, and it's very a peaceful, majestic album, and I really love it. I agree. It's not really a rock album. It doesn't sound like the DeLeo brothers. I never would have guessed, but I really love the album. Sometimes it's good music to me, but it doesn't sound like Stone Temple Pilots. So, but that's not necessarily a bad thing if I like it. So
And
that's my approach.
so your ranking would be?
My ranking would actually be number 4.
Number 4. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm kind of between you two because I like the music. I think they have kind of unique turns of melody, ways where this these acoustic albums they um, tend to be a bit kitschy and like campfire style and everyone singing and weeping. And this album is a bit more subtle, I think, in its compositions. But yeah, it's a full album of acoustic tracks, so that gets a bit stale after a while. And for an album like this to rise above, I think the lyrics are way more important than on a rock album. And I think this is where this album is lacking. I read that some promotional blurbs or something where they said they hit all the right keywords, that it's a very introspective album and it deals with death and grief and stuff like that. But then the lyrics are very cliched and flat. So that kind of killed it for me because those two parts never really came together. And so for me, while I don't think it's a bad album and I think it was worth a try, for me, it's last place also.
Okay. The next one is the self-titled. I mean, this band has 2 self-titled albums, which
in
is
a row, yeah.
In a row, which is very strange. I don't get it, but they felt like this was right. So this was the first album with Jeff, and I think he did a great job. My favorite song is "The Art of Letting Go." It's kind of a safe record, a pop record. There are not really many surprises if you like Stone Temple Pilots. I like Jeff a lot. I think he's an amazing singer. And I would place this as my number 7.
Okay. I'm going to go next. And like you, I forgot to mention it. I don't have that deep connection to Stone Temple Pilots. I mean, I was there when they first got their start, and I read the reviews, but I was more of a metal kid back in the days. And while I didn't hate grunge, I wasn't that deep into it. And by 1992, when the debut came out, I think I was a bit snobby towards that music because it wasn't heavy and evil enough for me. So I tended to put it down and be like alternative and stuff like that. And I got to them much later. I think I bought their albums when Shangri-La Dee came out. Loved them, but of course by then it was too late to really get into them. I mean, that was shortly before their first breakup. And the last 3 albums I heard for the first time for this exercise. I didn't even know they had recent albums, to be honest. And yeah, when I listened to those 2 self-titled albums, I mean, it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy when you have 2 albums in a row with the same title. I had troubles to keep them apart. They somehow bleed into each other for me because they are very, very samey. Their new singer, I read that he was on The Voice or American Idol or something like that, and it's a bit unfair to him because he is a good singer, but that already was a put down for me because to me, he seems like an impersonator. He doesn't really transport personality. And while I have absolutely no idea what Scott Weiland was singing about when I listened to his records, he has turns of phrase and images in his lyrics that keep things interesting. And this guy doesn't. Uh, the lyrics are, yeah, bland, I would say, and the music tends to be a bit bland also. While that's not really a bad album, I have it on second to last place. So Stone Temple Pilots from 2018 is my number 7.
All right, you brought up a lot of good points and things I actually put in my notes. One, the lyrics. You know, Scott was the main lyricist behind all of the Stone Temple Pilot records, and I agree. There was a different dynamic. He was a different person, different mindset, obviously, and what he brought to the table lyrically, I think, is head and heels above what they're doing now. And so, full disclosure on this album, as we're doing this exercise, I decided to go backwards because the earlier stuff I heard the most, I had it the longest, and I lived with it the longest. And so, as anybody following me on Facebook will know, I just had new record shelves built, and I'm painting those. And this is a perfect thing to have my headphones on and listen to this. And I got the two self-titled mixed up. So I'm playing this and I'm making my notes. And when I go back to revisit the notes, I really thought this was Scott singing. That's how much this guy on this album sounds like Scott, but I wrote down that it just sounded flat. So, you know, to me, this is when Stone Temple Pilots split up and they did another project with another singer. They called it Talk Show. And that made sense to me because of a different band. However, that was a really bad album. It didn't sell. So I think this Stone Temple Pilots self-title was to say, we're back and here's the new Stone Temple Pilots. That makes sense. I'll get into the other self-titled title next time. So I get why they did that. But again, this just doesn't work for me. First track, Middle of Nowhere, that kind of has the classic Stone Temple Pilots lead-off track. After that, on Guilty and on Metal, the next two songs, again, it lacked the personality of Scott. I think if Scott sang these, they would be better tracks. I just think the rest of the album kind of lays there. It doesn't do a lot for me. I think it's okay. I would certainly revisit it over the Perdida album, but it's also not one I'm going to go back to many times, and this would be following suit, my 7th.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the next round, and that's the other self-titled album of Stone Temple Pilots from 2010. It's their reunion album with Scott, as well as the last album with him. Yeah, like I said before, it's not too different from the album that comes directly afterwards. It's a bit more mellow than the stuff they did in the 90s, more melodic, and it starts off very, very promising, I think. The first 4 tracks, I love them. Take a Load Off, the second one, I love that one. It's great. It reminds me of the Volume 4 album, or Tiny Music maybe. Then we have what I said before, these kind of weird turns of phrase that Scott has in his lyrics, where while I don't know what he wants to say, it just sounds good. And here is this song, Hickory Dichotomy. I mean, that's a great title, and it sounds good when he's singing it. Makes the song more interesting, just these 2 words, I think, and how they sound. But then the album takes a little dive for me. There are 2, yeah, Dare If You Dare. That's kind of an inspirational ballad, and those songs, yeah, seldomly work for me. And the next one, Cinnamon, is also, yeah, they're trying to be a happy band, and I don't know, to me it doesn't work, and the album didn't recover from that shock for me. So I lost interest after those two songs and was a bit disappointed. Um, but yeah, it's way better than the album that came afterwards. So yeah, no surprise, it's my number six.
So first of all, the title. I always have a big problem when a band has a self-titled album that is not their first album. You
Yeah.
know, when you're into the sixth album, everyone knows who you are. Come up with a title. Anyway, that's a minor pet peeve. Um, so I started to track from this album on back on the U.S. charts, and this did not certify. And um, the Billboard 200 did get to number 2, which sounds impressive, but in 2010, it only sold 100,000 copies. So charting in the U.S. was different from sales in the U.S. at that point. So not a big seller for them. Um, this is also the first without Brendan O'Brien as the producer. The DeLeo brothers produced this. I think there's a little bit of a loss there because Brendan is an amazing producer, you know. But again, they wanted to do their own thing. They were breaking away. They're getting back together, right? This is the first album since 2001. Unfortunately, after this, they break up in 2013, and then 2015, Scott Weiland passes away. So that reunion of them again, obviously, it's not gonna happen. I put down the first 4 tracks were good rock tunes. I like that. Tracks 5 through 9 sort of meandered, kind of lost my interest. 11 track First Kiss on Mars, that was a nice mid-tempo song. 12, the track Maver, very melancholic. I think that's my favorite song on the album. I think that could have been a big hit. I don't know why it wasn't released as a single. Again, maybe it's just timing, but that to me sums up great Stone Temple Pilots. And then the 13th track is just a bad way to end the album. To me, it sounds like yacht rock. I don't know why that was the ending track. So decent, but I'm going to put this at number 6 and my least favorite of the Scott Weiland era.
Okay, I agree with Alex. This is also my least favorite Scott Weiland album, Pilots album. It's a good one, but some uninspired track like Cinnamon or Bagman, which are a bit 60s inspired. They wanted to do kind of a genre exercise with this album, which didn't really work. You don't really hear this old equipment they used. It sounds like a Stone Temple Pilots album. I like the songs mentioned before, Hickory Dichotomy. It's really one of the highlights. I think Scott is in his kind of glam rock mode. He sounds a bit like Lou Reed, 70s Lou Reed or 70s David Bowie in the verse, which is very cool. My favorite song is really like the last song about a fool, when Scott is crooning. I love that. Yeah, a nice album, but I think because of the really, in my opinion, bad song Cinnamon or Bagman, these moments are really so dull that I place the self-titled with Jeff above this one because it's a more consistent album, but they are almost neck to neck. But I think the other one is a little bit better, and this is my number 8.
Did you guys like Dare If You Dare? Because you didn't mention it, because that one stuck out to me like a sore thumb on that album. I cringed when I heard it.
Yeah, that was part of the album that period that kind of lost me.
Okay.
That group of songs.
Okay.
Wasn't a highlight for me. No.
Okay. So Alex, let's go on with Shangri-La Dee.
Okay. But first of all, I want to say, this has been very interesting so far because you're getting some agreement and a lot of disagreement. But I like the way that we're doing this. And Oliver, great idea because it is kind of, not the stale format of your standard countdown. So hopefully everyone is enjoying this because personally I am. All right, so their fifth album, 2001, Final with Brendan O'Brien as the producer, and in 2003 would be their, first breakup. So in the U.S. Billboard 200, it's got to number 9, and this went gold, so 500,000 copies, which is again much less than we're going to get to coming up. Starts off with Dumb Love, and that is a great, again, classic Stone Temple Pilots way to open it. They come out swinging. Love that track. Days of the Week, the second track, catchy as hell. Really like that as a single. Coma, another smoking song. So first 3 in a row have my attention. And again, as I was listening to these and working my way backwards, after these 3 songs, it finally hit me like, okay, this is Stone Temple Pilots, right? What came after this, I wasn't into. Now they have won me over. And this, I do have, that starts my collection. Everything after that, I do not have physical copies of, but this I do. I shouldn't say everything. Everything after this. So the 5th track, wonderful. Also, another softer side of Scott, and I think that's done right. I like that track. Then it gets a little bit weak for the next couple. It rebounds with Too Cool Queenie. I think that's really a cool and different sounding song for them. And then again, it just is okay going into the end. And a song for Sleeping, to me, is that bad side of Scott where he's a little too sappy and boring. And so it kind of ends a little lackluster versus how it was at the beginning. I do still like this album, and I'm going to rank it 4th in my ranking. So better than number 4, which is coming up. But they were close. Number 4 and Shangri-La Dee, very, very close. I'm going with Shang as number 4.
Okay. Alex?
Okay. Shangri-La Dee is the last one with Brandon O'Brien, and it has some great Scott moments on it. Unlike the last one, I think that's really a step down, but still glad we got that one after all those years. My favorite tracks are Hollywood Bitch, Wonderful, or Hello, It's Late. The more quiet moments. I'd like to quote the pre-chorus of Hello, It's Late, because I think there are some nice lines by Scott. Nothing matters again. I didn't think it'd last that long, but I'm just sitting on this merry-go-round and the music is too loud. I think this is a great picture. And I think the best moment maybe on this album for me. And it's a bit patchy. I don't like the whole thing. But these great moments alone make it my number 6.
Okay. So yeah, like I said before, Shangri-La Dee was the most recent album when I got into Stone Temple Pilots. So it was pretty new when I bought it, and when I remember that right, Alex, maybe you can correct me, but in Germany, Stone Temple Pilots never were that big of a thing. So yeah, if you were a rock fan or alternative fan, you surely knew of them, and they were on MTV and stuff like that. But they were never a commercial issue in Germany, as far as I know. So when I got into them, interest, like you said, Alex, in the US had kind of they weren't that popular anymore, and so I felt like being kind of too late. It felt like a real discovery for me because most of the people had already lost interest in them when I was discovering them. And back then, I really loved that album and especially that song "Wonderful." I think I put it on a mixtape when I met my wife. Today, I think it's a bit sappy, and it is representative of the development they took on the next albums, where I think they got softer and tried to get more mainstream appeal, maybe. And yeah, I agree with you both that this album is a bit all over the place. It's what I think is pretty obvious is it's way longer than the albums that came before. I'm I mean, Volume 4 and Tiny Music, I don't think they are longer than 40 minutes, or maybe they're around 40 minutes. They're very concise, short songs, and this one feels a bit bloated and loses its way, I think, towards the end. So, yeah, I struggled a bit to get through, lost interest. It's not a bad album. It's better than what came afterwards, but it's not better than number 5 for me.
Okay, I'm going to continue with number 4. A difficult album for me because it was great and disappointing at the same time. Disappointing because all the heavy tracks have Scott singing with such a weird effect. And he is using his deep baritone voice and an affected voice. And I never liked this Scott very much. Sometimes it's okay for me. Sometimes I even like it, and sometimes I hate it. And I hate what he's doing on number 4, on like for example on No Way Out. It's not really, to me, that's not the Scott I want to hear. I love him more with his tenor voice. And it's kind of affected. He's kind of mimicking a tough guy, in my opinion. To me, this Scott is not that believable. But maybe that's just me. I have always felt like that. I mean, after Core, when Core went to Purple and he changed his singing style, I heard the crooner Scott. I said, I don't know. This is. I mean, he's called a chameleon for a reason. He can do a lot of things with his voice, which is great. But singing is also about credibility, you know. I mean, other singers, like if you take Lane Staley or Kurt Cobain or people like that, they don't have that many singing personas as Scott. Yeah, it's just Kurt. Maybe they have 2 or 3. But Scott, he has a lot of personas, and you thought, oh, it's just another guy. Now it's this, and now it's this the gentle Scott crooning all over the place. And I always had a problem with that. And yeah, and this tough guy Scott, I never liked that one that much. And this combined with this effect on No Way Out, it's not for me. And at the same time, all the acoustic tracks are gorgeous. Yeah, I Got You, Atlanta. What's the other one called? Sour Girl. Yeah, are excellent. And I mean, this album is still on number 3 because of the excellence of all the acoustic numbers. This is a peaks and valleys album for me, and not very consistent, but still great because of those songs. And yeah, I've always had this weird relationship with Stone Temple Pilots, love hate. And number 4 is the one I feel this the most.
Okay. I love this album. It surprised me when I heard it. I said that I basically discovered all those first 4 albums at once. I bought them all at once and took them in at one time, basically. And that one surprised me because in Germany we have this term called Schweinerock. If you translate it, it would be something like pig rock. You know, a very dirty, bassy, like biker rock. And this record sounds like that for me. It's a grimy, dirty album. Maybe the cover influences the way I feel about this album as well, because you know this dark black and white cover with the star almost has some kind of Motorhead style to it, I think. And so I love the Scott Weiland you don't like, Alex. When he's getting down and dirty and swaggering and shouting these tracks, and I think that's a great album. It surprised me back in the day. I still love it. I hadn't listened to these albums in a while when we did this, and I was really surprised how many songs I remembered when I listened to it again, and I thought, well, oh yeah, I know this one. So Church on Sunday, Tuesday, sorry, Down, Heaven and Hot Rods. I mean, the first tracks are always great, I think, on the Stone Temple Pilots album. Um, yeah, it's a great album. It's not the greatest they did, so it's only on number 2 for me.
Well, Alex, you bring up a great point, and what you don't like about Scott, I do like about Scott, and that is the chameleon aspect. And you mentioned Bowie, and when we get to the end, I have an honorable mention for Scott and go into Bowie more. But Bowie changed many different styles, yes. You know, and I think that Scott he's part Jim Morrison, he's part David Bowie, maybe he's even a little David Lee Roth. I mean, he was a true rock star, and without trying to be a rock star, it just came natural to him, I think, in the way that he sang, in the way that he wrote, in the way that he moved on stage. But he was also somebody that wasn't going to be pigeonholed. And a great comparison, Lane Staley, who I worship and love, Alice in Chains, you really didn't want to, you didn't want to range, right? Because he was in the pocket for that sound. You know, there was a little bit of diversity, but Alice in Chains is identifiable as a sound and a mood. And Stone Temple Pilots is here, there, and everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So this in the States on the Billboard 200 got to number 6, and it went platinum. So again, falling down from the ones that came before it, but they're best selling from here on. Down, a heavy opener again. They most times they know how to open an album right and get your attention. I love that track. Heaven and Hot Rods, again, the second track, that rocks. So it has a great start. The 5th track, Sour Girl, which ended up being their biggest hit in the States. It got to 78 on the mainstream Hot 100 chart. I don't get of their slower type mid-tempo songs. I find this boring, so I don't know why that resonated so much in the States as a hit, but it did. Then we go to the 6th track, No Way Out, very aggressive. I like that. Also, we'll mention Atlanta, a beautiful song. And that reminds me very much of the Doors. There's a part where he sounds like Jim Morrison. It reminds me of Hyacinth House. And then it kind of shifts and morphs towards the end. But there's a point in that song where if you told me that was a Lost Doors track, I'd say, sure, I believe that. So I like this. It's a nice mix of everything that came before, including going back to core. It was close with Shangri-La Dee, but I'm putting this at 5.
Okay.
Let me quickly add something to this album. What I never understood is the track MC5, because it doesn't sound like MC5 at all. Was this meant as a kind of tribute, or was this about Detroit, or I don't know.
Yeah, and that's not. I didn't write that track down on my notes. It's not one that even
it's
resonated
not a good
with
song,
me.
yeah, but I like MC5. That's I don't get it. Okay.
So I'm going to talk about the next album, which is Tiny Music from 1996. And I think now it's time to talk about Stone Temple Pilots being labeled as grunge back in the day, because I think this album still fits in that era. And even today, when I watched a couple of other videos where Stone Temple Pilots were ranked or mentioned as yeah, great successful rock band of the 90s, and they are always kind of laughed about by some people. Yeah, and there was this band also, the second also Rans, who tried to make money off the grunge bandwagon or something like that, and I never really understood that. I mean, of course, on their first album, you can hear that was the sound of the day on some of the songs. Scott hadn't yet found his voice. I think he tried to emulate singers that were around a bit. He sounds a bit like Eddie Vedder on some songs. The melodies are a bit similar, but after that, I think they really found their very own niche, and I don't hear that much of the characteristics of Seattle grunge in that, because they were always way more glammy, sunny. I mean, I think they're from San Diego, right?
Yeah.
So you hear that it's more playful. It's not that downtrodden like Seattle music oftentimes is. It's not that depressive. They are having fun playing with different styles. I think they would have probably fit very well in the 80s as well, because I mean, it's no surprise that Scott was playing in Velvet Revolver with Slash and those guys, because yeah, he has this glammy style, the way he's dancing and the way he looks and stuff like that. So I wondered if people were really listening to them or just putting them in a drawer and closing it and labeling it grunge, because personally I don't really hear it on the albums after Core. And Tiny Music to me is peak Stone Temple Pilots. I think this is the album where they really found their sound. Now I mentioned a couple of styles you can find in their music, but I think this is really an original album. I said before, very concise songs. This album is short, gets straight to the point. It's basically a pop record played with real instruments, you know, so like you would have done in the 60s. Great songs on there. I mean, Tripping on a Hole in a Paper Heart is probably the most well-known song on there, but I think this album is great from front to back, and there's not a weak song on there. Pops Love Suicide, the opener. I love Tumble in the Rough. That's great. Big Bang Baby, it's a great song with a nice Rolling Stones quote. Adhesive is a bit more mellow. That's beautiful as well. Seven Cage Tigers, the closing track. I think this album is a masterpiece, and it's the best they've ever did. So the best they ever done. So it's my number one for sure.
To your point, at least in the States, we love to label and point fingers, and as soon as a band gets popular and everyone wears a T-shirt, jump off the bandwagon. And I never got that. I think it's silly and it's stupid. And yes, on that first album there was some grunge elements, but what was grunge? Grunge was Nirvana to Pearl Jam to Soundgarden to Alice in Chains. That's not a sound, right?
Honey.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah, so I never pay attention to those labels, and I listen to what I listen to, and that's that. So so on this album, it came out in '96, so we're still in that grunge era, though, right? In the U.S., it got to number 4 on the album charts, and it went 2 times platinum, and it had 3 mainstream, and we have all these different charts. I don't know how it's in Germany, but we have 80 different charts for different things. So not the regular top singles chart, the mainstream rock chart, whatever the hell that's supposed to be. They had 3 number 1 singles. So this was a big album for them. I agree. I love it. This and the next 2 are very, very close. Big Bang Baby, Lady Picture Show, and Trippin'. Those are the 3 number 1s. Those are 3 great songs. I don't get the opening intro. It seems kind of pointless, but fine. After that, Pop Love Suicide, great track. Tumble in the Rough, again, awesome. I mean, it just has a nice flow to it. Art School Girl is a different sounding song. And again, this shows all the different sides of Stone Temple Pilots and of Scott, that you can morph and evolve and have these different sounds in the context of one album. It's not an easy thing for bands to do. I go back to Alice in Chains. To see them do something as diverse as this, I don't know that would work, right? So, again, 7 Case Tiger, great way to end it. I think this is a great album overall. I love the different styles of vocals that Scott delivers. Having said all of that, there are 2 that I like better. So this is my number 3.
Okay. I guess most of it has been said. I don't have much to add. I also love this album. It's great. And I think by this time I became really nostalgic for the 70s and checked out more 70s album, because this sounds old. I think it sounds almost as it could have been released in 72 or something. Yeah? And you hear Scott's Bowie influences. I think his singing is great. I love this record, and to me, it's also peak Stone Temple Pilots. This is by far my number 1. Yeah, I didn't have to think about that, but the rest of the ranking was very difficult.
All right, so we're up to Purple, yes, which is the number 2 album, their number 2 album in the U.S., number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart, and 6 times platinum. So this was a massive album, and I love it. As much as I like Tiny Music, this to me is the one that really captures the Stone Temple Pilots sound. Meat Plow starts off with, now that is kind of grungy sounding, but a grungy heavy rocker. I love that. Vaseline, again, just another Stone Cold classic for them. To me, Vaseline sounds like Scott Weiland moves on stage. It's got that kind of slinky, snaky swagger. I love it. Loungefly, another that's a sexy, kind of dark, swingy track. Interstate Love Song, one of the top Stone Temple Pilots songs for me. I just think that's a brilliant composition. Penny, again, another great song. And to me, this is how you do this kind of music, I said, as opposed to Perdida, right? If you're going to do this type of track, this is it. But this is having Scott's influence on it. Silver Gun Superman, another sleazy rocker, sing-along chorus. Love that. Big Empty, which debuted on the Crow soundtrack and then was put on this album, I like even more than Interstate. Again, one of my top songs for Stone Temple Pilots. And I think it ends nicely, not counting the weird bonus track, which is, again, you want to talk about the diversity. The loungy kind of hidden bonus track is Scott singing. It doesn't sound like anything he's ever sung before. It doesn't sound like him at all, but that shows his range. So anyway, if it's not evident by now, this is my number 1.
Nice.
Now it's your turn, German Alex.
Okay, so Purple, yeah, they have lots of influences, lots of genres they cover on this record, from southern rock to jazz to lounge, country, even a little bit. And yeah, I first I was disappointed when this came out, because it was to me a big change to core, because it sounded it didn't have this yeah, I love the production of the drums of core, and this was kind of gone. Purple is produced very differently, again by Brandon O'Brien, but it sounds very different. They sound, to me, they sounded like a different band, and I was disappointed. And then I liked the album, and after all those years, I lost interest in most of the songs. Unfortunately, I don't really know why. To me, they don't have kind of a timeless quality. Maybe I've listened to them too much back in the day, but I still like, of course, Interstate Love Song, Kitchenware and Candy Bars, or Big Empty. I think this was their transitional album from core to tiny music. So if you listen to Big Empty or Kitchenware, you see where Scott with his singing is going, and also the others. I mean, the others are also super great musician, especially Robert DeLeo is a really one of my favorite bass players. He's so good, and one of the reasons he is so good he is that his influences come from other places than many usual rock bass players, yeah, that play, I don't know, root note things. I've seen a video not so long ago that where in which he explains that his bass lines for Interstate Love Song, which are great, I think they make the song. They are inspired by Motown, actually, which is very cool. I mean, he seems like a very cool dude anyway. Also experienced in playing jazz, so he can really do a lot of things. Yeah. Uh, yeah, this sounded way too bad. I still like the album, but it's after all those years, it's not my favorite. I prefer to listen to single tracks and not the whole album. That is why it's my number five.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have that much to add, so I guess my take is kind of a maybe a combination of yours. I agree with your take that it's kind of a transitional album, and that explains how I ranked it. Um, I like it front to back. I think every song is memorable and has its own character and style. And they're great songwriters. I mean, like I said before, lots of these songs I hadn't heard in quite a while, and they immediately came back to me when I put this on. Um, so in that regard, it isn't really worse than Tiny Music, but I think they hadn't yet quite found their style. You hear it in the melodies, of course. It's Stone Temple Pilots, but there's still some leftovers from core on there. Not that that's a bad album, but I think after the albums after this one are where they really found their style. So Purple is number 3 for me.
I'm talking about the debut, Paul, released in 1992, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought it when it first came out. Loved it. Loved all the singles. Plush. The second song named Creep from the 90s. That is also great. Um, yeah, we played it back then with my band. We tried to play Wicked Garden. Our version wasn't that good, but we liked the song. And yeah, I think it's a very special album because it's very unique in their discography. It's maybe the heaviest album. I still to this day I love the production, and I think it's the first time in my life that I really paid attention to the production of the drums, because I still love to listen to the drums of this album, to those little fills in Wicked Garden. That's so great. So I mean, Eric Kretz is not really a show-off drummer, but he's a drummer that plays for the songs. But he does such little things. That's yeah, that's really nice. So I really like almost all of the songs. Maybe not the last one. I'm not big on that one, but I like the rest. Um, and I think why I placed it so high, it's my number two, is also a lot of nostalgia. So sometimes that influences my ranking as well.
Yeah, I think nostalgia is often it's kind of put down, and of course sometimes you like stupid things and are nostalgic for stupid things, which maybe shouldn't be worth your time. But on the other hand, I think it's pretty. I mean, youth is such a formative part of your life. You experience things for the first time. Your brain is wired in a different way. Everything is more intense. So I think it's pretty, yeah, pretty obvious why you gravitate towards stuff you liked in your youth. Oftentimes, not everything I liked back then. I like now or today. Um, I'm glad about that, but yeah. So I think yeah, that was a pretty special time, the early '90s for. I was 16 when that album came out, and like I said, I wasn't there for the start. I read about the Stone Temple Pilots, so I don't have that nostalgia for this album, but that's the way I feel about the debut of Pearl Jam. It brings me back to a certain place and time, and I remember sitting in the car with my parents and listening to it on my Walkman, and so yeah, I can totally understand that. Um, I'm not nostalgic for that album, but I still like it. Um, I listened to it way later. I also had a friend back then who was covering Stone Temple Pilots with his band. He was playing, or they were playing Plush. And I think that's when I heard the song for the first time, really, when his band was playing. Yeah, still, I think this is, especially if you compare it to what comes after. It's a debut album. They are trying a couple of things. You hear is pretty well in what time it was recorded. I think it's of a very special time and place. Like I said, you hear the influences and the bands they were surrounded with at that time. You hear it in Plush. I think you hear it in Creep. To me, he sounds like Kurt Cobain. That song remembers me of Nirvana. It's a great song. I mean, a lot of bands would have loved to be able to sound like them. So that's not a knock on them, but shows their talent. I think my favorite song on that album is Naked Sunday, because it's the most up tempo and most classically rocking, I would say. But yeah, this album is a good listen. Some things are a bit dated. A song like Sex Type Thing, the lyrics are a bit weird today. But yeah, it's a good album, deserving of its place in music history, and certainly not hasn't deserved the kind of ridicule this band sometimes gets. But yeah, of the early albums, the classic period, for me, it's their weakest, so it's on 4 for me.
All right. Well, before we go on, I pulled props and I forgot to show, so just so everyone can see. That was 4th, right? There's Tiny Music. There's Purple.
Yeah.
And if you look back there, there's my original. That's the original Purple vinyl pressing of Purple, and so that takes us to the debut. And I love this album. Very close to being my number one. I just think the one I picked was a little bit better musicianship wise. But, you know, we have to keep going back to this grunge thing because they were lumped into that. If you look at the progression from the first album to the second album of the Big Four, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, there's a progression, but there's a similarity. There's no similarity between, or very little between, Core and what came next for Stone Temple Pilots. So again, it shows that they were a different animal and should be treated as such. I think this just, well, first of all, for the stats. So Billboard 200 got to number 3. The main point behind this, though, is 8 times platinum in the States. That's a big record. So again, you want to shit on them, go ahead. They sold 8 million records. That's a lot. I think it's just one great track after another. Dead and Bloated, just right out the gate, is incredible. Sex Type Thing, another great song. And you want to say this, the lyrics are cringy now. The lyrics were cringy then, and he got into some heat about that and tried to defend it. But cringe is cringe. But I could go over Naked Sunday and Creep and Plush, and I actually like the When the River goes, the closing track, 8 minutes. I think the longest track. I like that. I think it's a fantastic album, a fantastic debut. It definitely takes me back to that time. And just a quick story. Not that I worship Scott Weiland. I just like music in general, as you can see. And I really like the band. He had blue hair, and I just thought, that is cool. I'm going to have blue hair. It didn't turn out so well. I had to bleach it first and then dye it blue, but the red in my hair picked it up and made some parts purple and some parts blue. So that quickly went away. So that I always remember tying in with this debut album in that era. And I think it's a fantastic debut. It is my number 2, very close to number 1.
Nice. We made it.
We made it through.
And just real quick, an honorable mention is the first Scott Weiland solo album, 12 Bar Blues. You want to talk about Bowie? This is mid-70s, right? Glam era David Bowie. It's a ripoff. It's a good album, though. I love it. I would actually put that up in 2, if we're ranking this, that might be 2 or 3 in this list.
I would totally agree. Yeah, 100%.
So, okay, time is running out on our little session here. So let's gonna wrap this up. First of all, thank you, Alexis, for joining us here. It was a pleasure to do this with you. And of course, we will see you soon again. And I hope you enjoyed our little ranking. If so, give us your thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, give us your comments, and if you think our video sucked, please tell us as well in the comments. Give us your rankings, your opinions, and be there for the next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.